Sparta has a really fascinating past. I really did just condense the shit out of it and just pull out the, like, juiciest parts, but it's honestly worth researching more into. This is more to get you excited and interested in it, and then you go and do more research. People are smarter than me. I am the entry path. Most I want to talk about is the training elements. Classic Sparta. That being said, Sparta was one of the areas of Greece. It wasn't actually just one city. It was actually a collection of 5 different little cities opposed to one major city. Spartans believed that the polis, or city-state, was the citizen body themselves, not one specific location. Essentially, Sparta was its people, not a location. People made Sparta. Sparta was not a single place. Since it was a collection of 5 villages, it was actually really hard to fortify the town. Since fortifying all of them, they typically get like 2 or 3 or even 4 areas, but they couldn't get all of them. They didn't start fortifying Sparta until much, much later. Sparta was supposedly founded by a man named Lycurgus, who may or may not have even existed. According to documents, he created the Great Rhetoric, which is essentially the Spartan constitution, but this document was actually traced back to 2 different kings of Sparta. So between training from a young age and engaging in many wars and conquering the Peloponnesian area, Sparta made a name for itself in ancient Greece. A lot of ancient Greeks feared Sparta, up until the Peloponnesian Wars, when Spartan power started falling. Funny enough, though most of Sparta is known for worshipping Athena, however, there was one small area which they did not want to fortify the rest of Sparta without getting this one, because they worshipped Apollo, and they didn't dare upset Apollo either. This one was known as Amyclae. I probably butchered that pronunciation, I'm sorry. This was also really funny because the people from this area would leave wars to go home for 3 days to participate in the Hyacinthia, festival to Apollo. Literally in the middle of war, I almost said guns. Swords drawn, arrows drawn, and it's like, oh, sorry, hey guys, we gotta go, the festival's starting, we gotta get back in time, oh, come on. And just like, half the Spartans leave, and like, can you imagine fighting the Spartans and seeing half their members leave and just being like, where the fuck are they going? We're in the middle of a war! I would feel disrespected, honestly. I would feel slighted. There was another festival to Apollo as well in Sparta that was very popular, known as the Carnia, but that was specifically celebrating Apollo as a ram. So what they would do, choose, I believe it was 5 boys from the area. One of them would be selected to be the ram, and he was ordered to run. If the other boys were able to catch him, it was considered to be good fortune for all of Sparta in the upcoming days. Sparta as well, since it had a connection to Apollo, was also ordained by the Oracle of Delphi herself. So they had this connection. Sparta would often consult the Oracle of Delphi before they went to any wars, or any battles, really. The Spartan government was actually really weird for its time. The foundation for Sparta's government was that Rhetoric, which was written by 2 king brothers, and Spartans had 2 kings that reigned over the area for quite a while, both said to be descended from the first king brothers. Sparta would often have public feasts in the town's squares that were for the kings. Not for the townspeople, just for the kings, who would organize who sat closest to them. Like a popularity contest. It was less about the eating and more flaunt for power, like, haha, looks like I'm King Leo's best friend this week. You shouldn't have denied him playing with your stick. Ayo? I did not have a good joke for that one. Sparta also had a council called the Gerousia, a group of old dudes that held supreme judicial authorities. These were the friends and family of the royals, and the first time that people actually campaigned for government position, so more improper at the time, especially because the Spartans believed that those who sought out positions of power were the types of people that should not have power. History is actually just one big circle the more you look at it, isn't it? With the Gerousians, they also, once they were appointed to their positions, were there for life, which back then was maybe 60 years, but still crazy. Spartans often voted by acclamation, which literally just meant you yelled out whenever you asked to vote. Your voice could easily be lost in the crowd, and whoever was loudest won. Do you want this? Yeah! Okay, but who doesn't want this? Yeah! All, like, louder people, even though more people said yeah on the first one. Flawed system. They eventually switched to voting in groups to pressure people to conform to a majority. This is how Sparta feigned the ideas that citizens were supporting wars, but they actually had support to even enter them. We just keep circling. You know, Sparta also actually made a point of being super anti-tyranny. So they would fight off against multiple tyrants that they had no business being near. One example being when they aligned with Corinth to help them against the tyrant Polycrates of Samos, with no previous ties or even a reason to help. Samos is so far away, there's no real reason to get involved other than destroy the tyrants! Circles, you know? And then we get to the part that is my personal favorite. Spartan lifestyle. So Sparta to the rest of the Greeks were actually one of the weirdos of the group. They considered a family to be the whole city-state, not just the people who were blood-related. Your duty was to Sparta and her people before your own blood ties, and those of your blood ties feel the same way. The men weren't even allowed to live with their wives for a number of years after marriage. They could come back and visit every so often, but they would remain in the barracks with their fellow men, while the women would work at home, raising children. So I gotta talk about the Greeks hating women again. Please bear with me. Excited to hate women. No, wait, hold on! The Spartans were a bit more tolerant of women, figuring female slaves capable enough to handle weaving and other tasks, so the free women could be trained to birth and raise strong Spartans. Like, the women were actually raised to train the same as the men, because they believed that strong women would give birth to strong Spartans. The women were also in charge of household and finances, but handling money was still considered wicked, so they left the wicked task to the wicked folk. History. Circles. However, the women were seen as being better than men from any other area since they were the ones who birthed and raised strong Spartan soldiers, so they had a little bit more respect for their own women. So the ranking went Spartan men, Spartan women, other women, really. Spartans were also raised differently. When a male child was born healthy, once he reaches the age of about 6 or 7, he's taken from his mother to live with his training company. They wanted these boys to grow up tough, so they only had them wear one sheet of clothing no matter the weather. They weren't allowed to wear shoes, ever, so they wouldn't grow soft feet like the Athenians. They would also give only enough food to keep off starvation, allowing the boys to attempt to steal more food for themselves, but harshly punishing anyone who was caught trying. This was to teach them to become stealthier. It's like, oh, you failed to get it this time, so we're gonna punish you. We're not gonna punish you if we know you succeeded, kind of idea. It's really weird, definitely not fucked up at all. They would also decide which of the boys around age 12 would graduate from the Spartan training camp to become a Spartan soldier. Anyone deemed unworthy was actually banished from Sparta, with only the cloak they received as a boy because they were deemed completely useless to Sparta. Oh, was that Timmy? You failed graduation? Well, Timmy, it was nice knowing you. I'll see you never, and if we see each other again, we might have to fight and I might have to kill you. Have fun joining whatever city-state you end up going to, pal. I'll miss you, Timmy. Shame you graduated. Who's Timmy? We're not supposed to talk about him anymore. Even the girls were trained to be physically strong because they believed that a child had two strong parents, they would be much tougher as a result. So I breezed through this, and again, there's a lot to talk about with Sparta. I've really condensed this. There's a lot more to talk about. I'm just pointing out things that are relevant to the campaign. Except this one, because this one is one of the most popular things known about Sparta, which is the Battle of Thermopylae. Thermopylae. That's how I pronounced it. I honestly don't know how much I want to talk about this, but talking about Sparta means mentioning it, so here comes the abridged Spark Notes version. So Xerxes of Persia was causing problems for all of Greece, and only Greeks were allowed to mess with the Greeks. So anyone in Greece wanted him to be stopped. King Leonidas of Sparta led a group of soldiers to war against the Persians, resulting in the most iconic battle for Sparta. With the soldiers of Arcadia, Athens, and many other locations across Greece, the Spartans headed to Thermopylae to stop Xerxes' conquest, trying to bottleneck them to defeat them. Unfortunately, someone went over to Xerxes and snitched that the Spartans had attempted to lay a trap to catch them and defeat them, which meant that Xerxes actually got the advantage. So while the Greeks fought valiantly, they ultimately fell, with only the ones sent home being too injured to continue to tell the tale. Actually, I don't know if anyone actually lived. I'm just going based on what I remember from 300 at this point. Because honestly, again, I take terrible notes. Look into this more, it's really fascinating. 300 actually does a pretty good job of showing what happens in the Battle of Thermopylae. I need you to understand, I had to watch 300 for my class. I had to. They made me. Because we were supposed to do a paper comparing and contrasting. And besides the, mystical elements, like the vampires being the immortals and actual giants and the shit, it's pretty accurate. Both how, Spartans feel, how Spartans interact with one another. It's actually pretty decent. Also, this was actually told by one of the oracles that this would happen, because the oracle said either Sparta would be overtaken by barbarians, or one of the kings would fall, which since King Leonidas fell in this fight, the oracle was correct on this one. And that's that! Sparta truly were brutal and a little bit crazy, but they were also fiercely loyal and kind to their own. While they didn't truly respect women themselves, they did see them better than outsiders. So love these memes because, yes, they weren't very kind about, like, deformities. I also love this one. This one's, like, my favorite. I moved everything around just to fit this one. What's side by side with a friend? I could do that. That's literally how the Greeks felt about each other. They hated each other, but at the time demanded that they all work together, and thus they did. I really like talking about the Spartans. The Spartans are just so fascinating. Do I support them? Oh no, they're absolutely batshit insane, but